The banner across my sister's living room read, "New Beginnings," in glittering letters. 30 people filled the space, champagne glasses in hand. My bankruptcy had become final that morning. Champagne, anyone? My sister held up a bottle, her smile wide. I stood in the corner by the bookshelf watching. My mother raised her glass from the center of the room. "To karma finally working," she announced loudly. The room erupted in cheers. My aunt added, "Sometimes people need to hit rock bottom to learn their lesson." I didn't say anything, just watched them toast to my financial destruction. 2 years of medical bills from a car accident had led to this. 3 surgeries, months of physical therapy, medications. Even with insurance, the costs had been devastating. I'd lost everything. I asked for help. "I need to borrow $10,000, I told my mother. "You should have been more careful," she'd said. My sister had been more direct. "I'm not enabling your poor choices. The accident wasn't my fault. A drunk driver had run a red light, but my family decided it was a lesson I needed to learn." So I'd filed for bankruptcy at 29, lost everything I built, started over from nothing. And they'd thrown a party. "She's being so quiet over there," my cousin said, glancing at me, finally learning some humility. More laughter. I finished my water and set the glass down. "I need to go," I said quietly. Nobody tried to stop me. I walked out of my sister's house, took the bus back to the studio apartment I was renting, and sat on the used futon that was my only furniture. That night, I made a decision. Not about revenge, about survival, about building something they could never take from me. I went back to work as soon as possible. Started at the bottom, data entry at a healthcare company, $32,000 a year. Worked every overtime shift, took weekend jobs. 6 months later, I'd saved enough for a healthcare administration certificate. Finished in 8 months. Got a coordinator job at a hospital foundation, managing grant applications for patients who couldn't afford medical bills. $48,000 a year. I understood those applications intimately. I'd lived it. Within a year, I was promoted to senior coordinator. Then program director, $75,000. Started consulting on the side. The fees added up. I invested carefully. 2 years after bankruptcy, the Sterling Medical Foundation recruited me as director of grant programs, 6 figures. The job oversaw $50 million in annual medical assistance grants. By year 3, I'd restructured their entire system and tripled their capacity. When the executive director retired, they offered me the position. At 33, I became executive director of a foundation distributing over $200 million annually. I controlled every grant decision. I'd built this from nothing, from that studio apartment and that bankruptcy party. Not for revenge, but because I understood what it meant to drown in medical debt with no lifeline. My family didn't know about any of this. I'd stopped attending their gatherings after the bankruptcy party. Blocked most of their numbers. Built my life quietly, separately. Then 3 years and 2 months after that party, an application crossed my desk. The name caught my attention immediately, Margaret Winters, my mother. I opened the file. She was requesting a grant of $180,000 for cancer treatment. Stage 3 breast cancer, requiring surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. Her insurance had denied several procedures as not medically necessary. The out-of-pocket costs would bankrupt her. The irony wasn't lost on me. I read through the supporting documents, letters from her oncologist, hospital billing statements, a financial disclosure showing she had $12,000 in savings and a mortgage she could barely afford. Her application was strong. Under normal circumstances, she'd qualify for the full grant amount. We helped hundreds of patients in similar situations. I set it aside and continued reviewing other applications. 2 days later, another familiar name appeared, Jennifer Winters. My sister. Her husband had been in a serious accident, multiple injuries requiring extensive surgeries and rehabilitation. Their insurance had hit its annual maximum. They were facing $300,000 in uncovered medical expenses. She was requesting a grant of $200,000. I sat back in my chair and looked at both applications on my desk. The following week, a third application arrived, my aunt, requesting $75,000 for her daughter's emergency surgery and complications. 3 applications, 3 family members, all requesting assistance from the foundation I controlled. None of them knew I worked there. The foundation's executive director wasn't publicly listed on the website, and I kept my career progression completely private. As far as they knew, I was still struggling somewhere, maybe still paying off that bankruptcy. My assistant knocked on my office door. "Ms. Winters? The grant committee meeting is in 10 minutes. "Thank you, I'll be right there." I gathered the 3 applications and walked to the conference room. Our grant committee consisted of 5 medical professionals, 2 social workers, and 3 community members. I chaired the meetings but rarely influenced decisions directly. The committee reviewed applications based on medical necessity, financial need, and available funding. We went through 15 applications that afternoon. All 3 of my family members' requests were on the agenda. Application 2847, Margaret Winters. Dr. Patterson, read the summary. Stage 3 breast cancer, requesting $180,000 for treatment costs. Medical documentation is solid. Financial need is clearly established. I recommend full approval. The committee nodded in agreement. Application 2851, Jennifer Winters. The social worker continued. Trauma case, requesting $200,000 for accident-related expenses. Again, strong medical justification and demonstrated financial hardship. I move for approval. Application 2856, another member added. Pediatric emergency surgery, $75,000 requested. Time-sensitive medical need, clear qualification for assistance. The committee was moving toward approval on all 3, standard procedure. They met our criteria. I could let it happen, let them be approved. Let my family receive the help they needed, the help they refused to give me. Or I could exercise my authority as executive director. I'd like to request additional financial documentation on these 3 applications before we approve, I said calmly. The committee looked at me, surprised. I rarely questioned their recommendations. What additional information? Dr. Patterson asked. I want to verify that the applicants have exhausted all other resources, family support, personal assets, other available assistance programs. Our guidelines require applicants to demonstrate they've sought help from all available sources before we provide funding. This was technically true, though we rarely enforced it strictly for cases with clear medical necessity. These applications seem straightforward, the social worker said carefully. I'm sure they are, but with requests totaling over $450,000 from applicants with the same last name, I want to ensure we're following proper due diligence. Let's request additional documentation before final approval. I could see the committee members exchanging glances, but they nodded. As executive director, I had the authority to request additional review. We'll send requests for supplemental information, my assistant noted. The committee moved on to other applications. Those were approved without issue. Over the next week, my family members were contacted by our grants office. They needed to provide evidence that they'd sought assistance from family members, document any available assets that could be liquidated, and demonstrate that no other funding sources were available. My mother called the foundation office 6 times. My sister called 9 times. They were transferred to various staff members, explained the process repeatedly, and grew increasingly frustrated. None of their calls reached me directly. The supplemental documentation began arriving. My mother disclosed that she had 2 adult children but claimed they were estranged and unable to provide assistance. My sister provided similar documentation. I reviewed the files carefully. Then I picked up my phone and called my mother's number, the one I'd blocked 3 years ago. I unblocked it first. She answered on the first ring. "Hello. This is the Sterling Medical Foundation calling about your grant application," I said. My voice was steady, professional. "Oh, thank God. I've been trying to reach someone for weeks. My treatment is scheduled to start next month, and I need to know about the funding. I'm calling because we need clarification on your application. You indicated that you have no family support available." "That's correct. I'm essentially alone in this. Our records show you have 2 adult children. Have you asked them for assistance?" She paused. "My children and I are estranged. They wouldn't help." "Have you actually asked them?" "There's no point. They've made their position clear." "Ms. Winters, our foundation requires applicants to demonstrate they've exhausted all family resources before we provide funding. Without documentation that you formally requested help from your children, we cannot process your application." "But I'm telling you, they won't help." "Then you should have no trouble getting that in writing. Contact both children, request assistance, document their refusal, submit that documentation to us, and we can continue processing your application." This is ridiculous. I'm dying, and you're asking me to beg my children for money? We're asking you to follow our application requirements, the same requirements every applicant must meet. I hung up. My sister received a similar call from one of our program officers. Same message: document your request for family assistance before we can proceed. 2 days later, my phone started ringing, my personal cell, not the office line. Numbers I didn't recognize at first, then realized they belonged to my family. I didn't answer. They left voicemails, my mother crying and begging, my sister angry and demanding, my aunt confused and asking what was happening. The foundation says I have to ask you for help. My mother's message said, please, I know we haven't talked in years, but I'm sick. I'm really sick. The treatment costs are impossible. If you could help, even a little bit, please call me back. My sister's message was more direct. The Grant Foundation is being completely unreasonable. They won't approve our application unless we can prove we asked family for help. So I'm asking, can you help with my husband's medical bills? We need $200,000. I know you probably can't, but I have to ask so I can show them I tried. Call me back. I listened to all the messages, then I deleted them. A week later, my assistant came into my office. The Winters applications are creating some issues. The applicants keep calling, saying they can't reach their family members to get the required documentation. They're asking for exceptions to the policy. No exceptions, I said. Policy applies to everyone equally. One of them asked to speak with you directly, Margaret Winters. She says it's urgent. Transfer her to my line. A moment later, my phone rang. I answered. This is Director Winters. Director? I've been trying to reach someone in charge for weeks. My name is Margaret Winters, and I'm applying for a medical grant. Your staff is requiring documentation that's impossible for me to obtain. What documentation is that? They want me to prove I asked my daughter for financial help. But my daughter and I don't speak. We haven't spoken in 3 years. Why not? That's personal. Family issues. It's complicated. Then uncomplicate it. Pick up the phone and call her. You don't understand. She won't help. She's probably still struggling herself after her bankruptcy. Her bankruptcy? She made some poor financial choices a few years ago. Ended up in bankruptcy. She doesn't have money to help anyone. I see. And did you help her during that bankruptcy? Silence on the other end. Ms. Winters? That was different. She needed to learn responsibility. And now you need to learn humility. Contact your daughter. Request her assistance. If she refuses, document it. Otherwise, your application will be denied. Please, I'm begging you. I'm dying. I can't wait months while you enforce bureaucratic nonsense. You have 2 weeks to provide the documentation. After that, your application will be closed. I hung up. That evening, my personal phone rang again, my mother's number. I answered this time. Hello, Mom. She gasped. You answered. You called. I need help. I'm sick, cancer. The bills are over $100,000 and my insurance won't cover it. I applied for a grant, but they're making me jump through impossible hoops. I know we haven't talked in years, but I'm desperate. Can you help? Even a little bit? No. Please, I'm your mother. You threw a party when I filed for bankruptcy. You told me I needed to learn responsibility. Now I'm telling you the same thing. Learn to handle your own problems. That was years ago. I was wrong. I'm sorry. You're sorry now that you need something, just like you needed something from that foundation. But they have rules, just like I had needs when I was drowning in medical debt. Funny how that works. The foundation said I have to get your refusal in writing. They said, wait, who did you say you were? I smiled, though she couldn't see it. I didn't say, but since you're asking, I'm the executive director of the Sterling Medical Foundation, the person who makes final decisions on every grant application that crosses my desk, including yours. The silence stretched for almost 30 seconds. You. Her voice was barely a whisper. Me, the daughter who filed for bankruptcy 3 years ago, the one you celebrated hitting rock bottom. The one who built herself back up from nothing. The one who now controls the exact help you're begging for. Please, please don't do this. I'll die without treatment. Then maybe you should have thought about karma when you were toasting champagne at my bankruptcy party. Because apparently it does work, just not the way you thought. I ended the call. The next morning, I received formal written requests from all 3 family members begging for financial assistance, signed, documented, properly formatted. I attached them to their grant applications and sent everything to the committee with my recommendation. Denied due to documented family support resources that applicants refused to utilize despite the ability to assist. The committee approved my recommendation. I sent the denial letters myself. Sometimes people need to hit rock bottom to learn their lesson. They were right about that. They just never imagined I'd be the one teaching it.
Hey, I'm Steven. At 28, life's going great. I'm crushing it as a software engineer, and AI is my jam. I spend my days making smart tech even smarter. Got a swanky downtown apartment, a car that turns heads, and the best part? My girlfriend, Melissa. Steven, you're such a nerd, she laughs, watching me tinker with my latest project. This nerd's going to change the world someday, I grin back. We've been together for 2 years, and she's a firecracker, always keeping me on my toes as a marketing exec. We just click, you know. Same wavelength, always supporting each other's dreams. Lately, I've been thinking about taking things to the next level. I've got the ring and everything. You seem distracted lately, Melissa says over dinner one night. Everything okay at work? Work's fine, I assure her. Just thinking about us, about the future. Her eyes light up, but I keep my poker face. No spoilers yet. But before I propose, there's one last thing I want to do. Ask her parents, the Thompsons, for their blessing. The Thompsons are big shots in the city, always throwing fancy parties and rubbing elbows with the elite. The first time I met them, it was all smiles and handshakes, but something felt off. It's a pleasure to meet you, Stephen, Mr. Thompson said, his tone smooth but distant. Melissa speaks highly of you. We're always excited to meet Melissa's friends, Mrs. Thompson added, her emphasis on friends stinging more than I'd like to admit. Thank God for my best friend Jake. We've been tight since college, and he's always watching my back. Over beers one night, Jake said, "Those Thompsons give me the creeps." You sure about this? I shrugged it off. They're not that bad. Just watch yourself, he warned. People like that, they play by different rules. His words stuck with me, though. Still, I love Melissa, and I want to do this right. So, I decide to ask the Thompsons for their blessing. When I hint at my plan, Melissa beams. You're really going to ask my parents? That's so sweet, Stephen. You know me, I joke. Mr. Traditional. The day of the meeting with the Thompsons, I'm feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. This is it, the first step toward forever with Melissa. But there's a nagging feeling in my gut, a voice whispering that maybe Jake was right. Maybe I'm stepping into something bigger than I realize. I arrive at their mansion, palms sweaty. Straightening my tie, I take a deep breath and ring the doorbell. Mr. Thompson opens the door, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. Stephen, welcome. Please, come in. Their living room is all polished mahogany and leather, intimidating. Mr. Thompson gets right to business. Melissa tells us you have something to discuss. Clearing my throat, I muster up the words. Yes, sir. I love your daughter very much, and I'd like to ask for your blessing to marry her. A tense silence follows, before Mr. Thompson chuckles. A cold, humorless sound. Marriage is a serious commitment, Stephen. We need to ensure you're suitable. My stomach drops as he pulls out a thick document. What's this? I ask, taking it hesitantly. Just a formality, Mrs. Thompson chimes in. We'll need access to your complete medical records before we can consider approving this engagement. I nearly choke. I'm sorry. What? It's quite simple, Mr. Thompson says, his tone patronizing. We need to ensure there are no genetic surprises lurking in your family tree. It's for Melissa's future. I can't believe what I'm hearing. This is insane. It's a complete violation of my privacy. Now, Mrs. Thompson says icily. If you have nothing to hide, why object? Because it's none of your business. I snap, my anger rising. My medical history is between me and my doctor. Mr. Thompson's voice hardens. We only want what's best for Melissa. Surely you can understand that. I stand up, my hands shaking. I'm sorry, but this is completely unacceptable. I won't do it. Think about it, Stephen, Mr. Thompson warns. Don't throw away your future with Melissa over something so trivial. I leave, my mind racing, and head straight to Melissa's apartment. When I tell her what happened, I expect her to be outraged. But instead, she looks conflicted. Maybe they have a point, she says softly. I mean, it's not like you have anything to hide, right? I stare at her in disbelief. Melissa, are you serious right now? I just don't want to disappoint them, she mumbles. Maybe if you just comply, it'll keep the peace. I leave her place feeling betrayed and completely alone. There's only one person I can turn to. Jake. We meet at our usual bar, and I spill everything. Those manipulative bastards. Jake explodes. Who the hell do they think they are? I don't know what to do, I admit. Melissa's not even backing me up. Jake's eyes narrow. Something's not right here, man. This isn't just overprotective parents. I'm going to do some digging. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my doctor. Stephen, I'm not sure what's going on, but Mr. Thompson has been pressuring me to release your medical records. This is highly unethical, and I won't comply. But be careful. I showed the text to Jake, my hands shaking. His eyes widened. Holy, Jake whispered. Stephen, these people are dangerous. We need to figure out what they're really after. As I sat there, reality started crashing down on me. The perfect life I thought I had, the woman I loved, the future I'd been planning. It all felt like it was slipping away. And for what? Some twisted power play by the Thompsons. One thing was clear. This wasn't over, and I wasn't going down without a fight. After that night with Jake, the sense of unease wouldn't leave me. Everything I thought I knew about my relationship with Melissa started to unravel. Little things I'd brushed off before now seemed like giant red flags. Why did you cancel our weekend getaway? I asked Melissa one day. She fidgeted with her phone, avoiding eye contact. Oh, Mom and Dad are hosting a charity gala. They really want me to be there. It hit me then. How often our plans seemed to change because of her parents. How she'd always check with them before making big decisions. Even her job at that fancy marketing firm. Turns out her dad had pulled some strings. Meanwhile, Jake had been busy. He showed up at my place one night, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Stephen, you're not going to believe this, he said, laying out a pile of papers on my coffee table. Remember Melissa's sister, the one who got divorced last year? I nodded, not sure where this was going. Well, I talked to her ex-husband. Guess what? The Thompsons pulled the same stunt with him. Demanded medical records, background checks, everything. When he refused, they made his life hell until the marriage fell apart. My stomach churned. You're kidding me. That's not all. Jake's face darkened. I did some digging at your company. You know the promotion you were up for last month? The one that went to that new guy instead. A chill ran down my spine. No way. Yep. Mr. Thompson had a quiet word with the board, made you sound like a risky investment. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All this time, they'd been sabotaging me behind the scenes. But why? Jake wasn't finished. The final blow came when he played me a recording. It was Mrs. Thompson's voice, crystal clear. I don't care how smart he is. Stephen's from, well, common stock. Melissa needs someone from our world, someone who understands our values. We can't have her settling for some nouveau tech boy. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All those smiles and polite conversations with her parents. It was all fake. A lie. I knew what I had to do. I invited Melissa over, laid everything out in front of her. The text from my doctor, what Jake had uncovered, even the recording of her mother. I expected shock, maybe anger at her parents. Instead, "Are you seriously believing all this?" Melissa scoffed. "Jake's always had it out for my family. He's probably making half of this up." "Melissa, there's proof," I pleaded, trying to get through to her. "Your parents have been manipulating us from the beginning." Her eyes narrowed. "So what if they have? They're just looking out for me. God, Stephen, why are you trying to turn me against my family?" It was like a veil lifted. For the first time, I saw Melissa not as the woman I loved, but as someone blindly loyal to her parents, a puppet dancing to their tune. "I can't do this anymore," I said quietly. Her expression hardened. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying it's over. We're done." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I sank onto the couch, feeling numb. Hours later, Jake found me there, staring blankly at the wall. "You okay, man?" he asked softly. I shook my head. "No, but I will be." I stood up, a new resolve filling me. Those people have been messing with people's lives for too long. It's time someone exposed them for who they really are. Jake grinned. "Now that's the Stephen I know. So, what's the plan?" As we started to plot, I felt a mix of sadness and determination. My relationship with Melissa was over, but this fight, it was just beginning. The Thompsons thought they could push me around and destroy my life without consequences. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Sitting at my computer, fingers hovering over the keyboard, I took a deep breath and hit send on an email to Sarah, a journalist I'd met at a tech conference the year before. "Hey Sarah, got a tip for you. Prominent lawyer trying to illegally access medical records. Interested?" Her reply came within minutes. "Intrigued. Tell me more." I spilled everything. Mr. Thompson's demands, the pressure on my doctor, the whole sordid affair. Sarah was all over it. "This is huge, Stephen. I'm on it." While Sarah dug into Mr. Thompson's shady dealings, I turned my attention to Mrs. Thompson. Time to put my tech skills to use. It took some effort, but I managed to trace Mrs. Thompson's online activities. What I found made my jaw drop. "Jake," I said, calling him immediately. "You're not going to believe this. Remember those fancy charity galas the Thompsons are always hosting? It's all a scam. Mrs. Thompson's been siphoning off donations for years." Holy, Stephen, we've hit the motherlode. Over the next few weeks, everything unraveled. Sarah's expose on Mr. Thompson hit the front page. Prominent lawyer caught in medical records scandal. The story detailed a pattern of abuse, with Mr. Thompson using his connections to access confidential information on various people. Then came the revelations of charity fraud. The Thompsons' carefully crafted image crumbled overnight. Their phones rang off the hook, but this time it wasn't for party invitations. It was former friends distancing themselves, the Bar Association launching an investigation, and even the police asking questions. I watched it all unfold from a distance, feeling a mix of satisfaction and sadness. Then, one day, my phone buzzed. It was Melissa. "Stephen, can we talk? Please?" We met at a coffee shop. She looked different, smaller, somehow, without her parents' influence looming over her. Her eyes were red, and she looked down at her cup. "I'm so sorry," she said, tears brimming. "You were right about everything. I should have stood by you. Can we try again?" I looked at her, remembering all the good times we'd shared. But something had changed. I'd changed. "I'm sorry, Melissa," I said gently. "But no, we've both got a lot of healing to do. I think it's best if we do that separately." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. As she left, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Weeks passed, and my career took off. Turns out, when you don't have rich lawyers sabotaging you, people start to notice your work. I threw myself into my AI projects with renewed passion. "Stephen, your latest algorithm is groundbreaking," my boss said one day. We're fast-tracking the patent. Life was good, and it got even better when Sarah called. Hey, want to grab dinner? I've got some follow-up questions about the Thompson story. Dinner turned into drinks, and drinks turned into long conversations about everything and nothing. Before I knew it, we were dating. It was refreshing. No games, no hidden agendas. Just two people genuinely enjoying each other's company. I'm proud of you, man, Jake said one night over beers. You stood up for yourself, took down the bad guys, and got the girl. I laughed. When you put it like that, it sounds like a movie. Better than a movie, Jake grinned. It's real life. Looking back, I felt grateful. Grateful that I discovered the truth before it was too late. Grateful for friends like Jake who had my back. And grateful for new beginnings with someone like Sarah. The story of Stephen and the Thompsons had come to an end. Now, here's a question for you. If you were in Stephen's shoes, would you have exposed the Thompsons' unethical behavior or kept quiet to maintain your relationship with Melissa? What would you have done differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm a 28-year-old man, married to my wife, Sarah, who's 26. We've been together for 6 years, dating for 4 before getting married, and we've been planning to start a family soon. My relationship with my mother, who's 52, has always been complicated. She raised me and my younger brother Tim, 24, on her own after my dad left when I was 10 and Tim was 6. We struggled financially, and Mom worked multiple jobs to make ends meet, leaving me to care for Tim. I cooked meals and helped him with homework while she worked late. Despite our hardships, I admired her determination. As I grew up, I realized that my mom relied on me emotionally more than she should have. She talked to me about her work and personal problems, even when I was still a teenager. I felt like I had to be strong for her, taking on a lot of responsibility early in life. By the time I was 22 and had my first real job as an entry-level accountant, I started helping her financially. At first, it was small things like buying groceries or paying a bill, and I didn't think much of it. I felt it was my duty after all she'd done for us. When I met Sarah at 24, she worked as a nurse, and we clicked immediately. As we got serious, Sarah noticed how much I was helping my mom and expressed concern. She worried I was enabling my mom's dependence, but I dismissed it at the time, thinking Sarah didn't understand the situation. Over the next few years, as Sarah and I got engaged and married, my financial support for my mom increased. My income was growing, and there always seemed to be a new crisis: car repairs, medical bills. I just couldn't say no. Sarah and I had frequent discussions about it. She worried that my mom was taking advantage of my generosity, and that it might affect our future, especially with our plans to buy a house and start a family. A significant portion of my income was going to help my mom, but I assured Sarah that it was temporary, that Mom just needed help getting back on her feet. 6 months ago, everything shifted. My mom called me, crying, saying she was behind on rent and needed $2,000 to avoid eviction. Without thinking twice, I transferred the money. But a week later, I noticed a strange charge on my bank statement for an online casino. I usually didn't question her expenses, but something felt off this time. After digging into her transactions, I discovered she had used most of the money on gambling. I was furious. When I confronted her, she broke down, admitting she had developed a gambling problem over the past year. She claimed she was trying to win enough money to pay me back and become financially independent. I told her I couldn't continue supporting her if she was going to gamble the money away, and insisted she get help. She promised to stop gambling and seek help, and for a couple of months, things seemed to improve. She stopped asking for money, and I thought that tough love had worked. Sarah and I started refocusing on our future, looking at houses and discussing when to start trying for a baby. Then, last week, everything fell apart. Sarah came home from work visibly upset. My mom had called her at the hospital, accusing me of cheating with my ex-girlfriend Lisa. I hadn't spoken to Lisa in years, since we briefly dated in college long before I met Sarah. I was blindsided by the accusation, but what hurt most was that Sarah didn't know what to believe. My mom claimed to have proof in the form of text messages between Lisa and me. I gave Sarah my phone without hesitation, knowing I had nothing to hide. But the damage was already done. The seed of doubt had been planted. Sarah said she needed time to process everything and went to stay with her sister. Now, I'm trying to make sense of why my mom would do this. Is it revenge for cutting off her financial support? Has her gambling addiction driven her to such extremes? I'm caught in the middle, not knowing how to fix it. I love my mom, but I'm starting to see how toxic our relationship has been. At the same time, I'm terrified of losing Sarah, the woman I want to spend my life with. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since this all happened, and things have only gotten worse. Sarah hasn't come home, and we've barely spoken aside from a few texts. She's made it clear she's not ready to talk face to face. In one of her messages, she said she's unsure what to believe anymore. That hit me hard. After 6 years of trust, it's been shattered by my mom's lies, and I don't know how to rebuild it. I confronted my mom about the accusations. At first, she denied everything, saying she was only looking out for me. But the more I pressed her, the more her story unraveled. After hours of back and forth, my mom finally admitted she had made up the entire story. Her explanation: she believed Sarah was going to leave me eventually and thought she was protecting me by trying to break us up first. I was in disbelief. How could she do something so cruel? When I asked her, she couldn't seem to grasp the seriousness of her actions. It turned out she had fabricated the text messages she claimed to have. Using an old phone I'd given her years ago, she created fake conversations and showed screenshots to Sarah. The level of deception was staggering. I've decided to cut off all contact with my mom for now. She continues to call and text, alternating between apologies and trying to justify her actions, but I'm not responding. I need to focus on saving my relationship with Sarah. My brother Tim, surprisingly, has been a source of support. When I finally told him what happened, he wasn't as shocked as I expected. He revealed that he had stopped talking to Mom months ago after she borrowed money from him and gambled it away, just like she did with me. Tim shared some stories of his own that shed light on how manipulative our mom has been over the years. He mentioned times when she pitted us against each other or invented emergencies to get money or attention. Comparing notes with him has opened my eyes to the patterns in her behavior. I've been reflecting a lot on my relationship with my mom and realizing how much she's used guilt and emotional manipulation to keep me tethered to her. I'm angry at her, but also at myself for not seeing it sooner. Sarah had tried to warn me, but I wasn't ready to listen. A few days ago, Sarah's sister reached out to say that Sarah is still deeply hurt, but is considering talking things through. I'm hopeful, but I know there's no quick fix for this kind of betrayal. I've been thinking about what I want to say to Sarah when we finally talk. I'd want her to know I'm committed to setting clear boundaries with my mom and that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild our trust. But I'm scared it might be too late. In the meantime, I've been keeping busy. I've thrown myself into work, started therapy to work through my family issues, and even joined a support group for people with family members struggling with gambling addictions. It's been helpful to talk to others who understand what I'm going through. I'm also thinking about what my relationship with my mom might look like in the future, if we have one at all. I know I can't cut her off entirely. She's still my mom, and I worry about her. But I also know I can't keep enabling her behavior or letting her interfere in my life. This entire ordeal has made me realize how much I've neglected my own needs. I've always been focused on taking care of everyone else, and now, as I face the possibility of losing my marriage, I'm confronting some hard truths about the choices I've made. I hope Sarah will be willing to work through this with me, but I'm also preparing myself for the possibility that she won't. Either way, I know I have a lot of work to do on myself and my relationships. I just hope it's not too late to save the most important one. Update 2. It's been another month, and I wish I had better news. Sarah finally agreed to meet with me last week. We went for a walk in the park near our house, a place we used to spend a lot of time together. As soon as I saw her, I could tell something had changed. She seemed distant, avoiding eye contact. We made small talk about work and the weather, but it felt strange to discuss such mundane things with so much unresolved between us. Finally, Sarah got to the real reason for our meeting. She told me she'd been doing a lot of thinking. While she believed I hadn't cheated on her, the fact that my mom was able to cause such chaos in our relationship made her feel vulnerable. She feared that even if we reconciled, my mom would always be a problem in our lives. I reassured her that I'd cut off contact with my mom and was committed to maintaining strong boundaries. I told her about my therapy and the support group I joined. But Sarah said it wasn't just about my mom anymore. This situation had made her question whether we were truly right for each other. She brought up past arguments about my family and how she'd always felt like she came second. She said she still loved me, but she wasn't sure if love was enough to overcome all the issues we faced. Hearing Sarah say these things was incredibly painful. I wanted to argue, to tell her we could work through anything together, but I could see in her eyes that she had already made up her mind. Sarah suggested we take some time apart to think about what we truly want. She proposed a trial separation of 3 months. During this time, we would live separately and limit our contact. At the end of the 3 months, we would reassess and decide whether to work on our relationship or end it for good. I agreed to the separation, even though it was the last thing I wanted. It felt like I was losing my best friend and partner, but I knew that pushing Sarah to stay would only make things worse. We spent the next hour discussing the logistics. She would continue staying with her sister while I stayed in our apartment. We worked out how to manage our shared finances and agreed only to contact each other if absolutely necessary. As we said goodbye, Sarah hesitated, squeezed my hand, and told me she was sorry it had come to this. It took every ounce of strength not to break down right there. Since that meeting, I've been trying to focus on myself. I've continued therapy and picked up new hobbies to keep my mind occupied. I joined a local hiking group and have been spending more time outdoors, which has helped clear my head. Meanwhile, dealing with the fallout from cutting off contact with my mom has been another challenge. She's been spreading lies to family and friends, claiming Sarah left me because she couldn't handle our family. It's frustrating, but I'm trying to stay above it and not engage. Tim has kept me updated on our mom's situation, and apparently, she's still gambling and asking other family members for money. It's hard to hear, but it reassures me that setting boundaries was the right decision. As the days pass, I swing between hope and despair. Part of me believes this time apart will help Sarah see that we can overcome this obstacle together. But another part of me is terrified that she'll realize she's happier without me. For now, all I can do is focus on becoming a better version of myself. Whether Sarah and I end up together or not, I need to address my own issues and learn to set healthier boundaries. It's a tough journey, but I'm committed to seeing it through. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I'm writing this with a heavy heart. Sarah and I are officially separated. After the trial separation, we met to discuss our future, and it became clear that the trust between us had been irreparably damaged. We tried couples counseling for a few sessions, hoping a professional could help us work through our issues. We talked about the impact my mom's actions had on our relationship, but we also uncovered deeper problems that we had been ignoring. Sarah shared that she had always felt like she was competing with my family for my attention and loyalty. Even before the incident with my mom, she had been unhappy with how much of our resources, both financial and emotional, were being directed towards my family. I realized I had been so focused on trying to take care of everyone else that I had neglected my relationship with Sarah. I thought I was doing the right thing by helping my family, but now I see that it came at the cost of my marriage. After much discussion and soul-searching, we both agreed that the best thing for us was to go our separate ways. It was an incredibly difficult decision, but we both felt it was necessary for our individual growth and happiness. We've begun the process of dividing our assets and working out the logistics of our separation. It's been challenging, but we're trying to keep things amicable. We've agreed to minimal contact for now to give each other space to heal. As for my mom, I still haven't spoken to her since everything happened. Tim keeps me updated, and it seems she still doesn't grasp the gravity of what she did. She's convinced herself that I'll eventually forgive her and that things will return to normal. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. In the meantime, I've been focusing on rebuilding my life. I moved into a new apartment and am establishing new routines. Therapy is helping me work through my family issues, and I'm learning to set healthier boundaries. Work has been a welcome distraction, and I've taken on new projects at the accounting firm that keep me busy. I've also reconnected with friends I had neglected during my marriage. This journey has been full of ups and downs. Some days I feel optimistic about the future and excited about the possibilities ahead. Other days, the loneliness and regret hit hard, and I find myself missing Sarah and the life we had planned together. But I'm taking it one day at a time and focusing on personal growth. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that I'm done letting other people's problems control my life. It's a painful lesson, but one I needed to learn. For now, I'm working on finding a balance between supporting my family and taking care of myself. It's not easy, but I'm committed to creating a healthier, more fulfilling life.
Hi, I'm Emily. It was just another long night at the diner, wiping down tables and balancing trays heavier than my sleep-deprived eyelids. Between shifts at the diner and my weekend gig at the bookstore, I was barely scraping by, doing what I could to keep my head above water. College wasn't cheap, and while my classmates obsessed over grades and party plans, I was counting pennies and sacrificing sleep. My life hadn't always been this balancing act between jobs and studies. Growing up, I was the apple of my father's eye, or at least I thought I was. But everything changed when my mom passed away. Not long after, my dad, Richard, married Clarissa, a woman closer in age to me than him. She was always draped in clothes and jewels, desperately trying to appear younger. Since then, home felt more like a battleground than a sanctuary. I was told my college tuition was covered by the trust fund my mom had set up for me, a final act to secure my future. But by my sophomore year, financial cracks started to show, and I began picking up more shifts. I told myself it was just for extra book money or a little cushion for emergencies. Then, everything came crashing down on a chilly Thursday morning. Between classes, I got a call from Mr. Thompson at the bank. His voice was calm, professional, but the weight of his words made my knees buckle. "Miss Tyler, there's an issue with your tuition payment. It seems there are insufficient funds in your account." "Insufficient funds?" I repeated, my voice shaky with confusion. "That can't be right. Can you check again? It's supposed to be covered by my trust fund." "There's been significant activity in the account," Mr. Thompson explained, his tone sympathetic. I hung up, my mind racing. Significant activity? Depleted? These weren't words that belonged to a fully funded trust. Something was very wrong. That evening, I confronted Richard over dinner. The dining table felt less like home and more like a boardroom as I laid out the facts. "Dad, there's a problem with the trust fund. The bank says my tuition hasn't been paid because there's almost nothing left. Do you know anything about this?" Richard's eyes flicked to Clarissa, who was pushing her food around her plate without interest. After a tense pause, he sighed, his mask of ignorance slipping. "Emily, I had to use some of that money. We had expenses, and I thought I could replace it before you noticed." "Expenses?" I repeated, my anger rising. What expenses could be worth risking my future? Clarissa spoke up then, her voice cold and dismissive. "Life isn't just about your tuition, Emily. We have needs too." I stood abruptly, my chair scraping the floor. "This isn't just about needs, Clarissa. It's about trust. Something that clearly doesn't matter in this family." That night, with a heart heavy from betrayal, I packed a bag and left. I couldn't stay in that house with the truth hanging in the air like smoke. I moved in with a friend, determined to find out how my future had been sold off for Clarissa's jewels and Richard's lies. The following days turned into weeks, and each passing moment deepened the weight of my father's betrayal. My trust fund, my future, had been blood dry, not for emergencies, but for lavish, unnecessary indulgences. The realization lit a fire in me, and I was determined to uncover every deceitful transaction Richard had made. Between jobs and classes, I combed through bank statements and financial records, slowly piecing together the truth. The withdrawals lined up with Richard's shopping sprees and high society events with Clarissa, flaunting their wealth while my future crumbled. One evening, when I knew Clarissa wouldn't be home, I confronted Richard again. The bank statements lay on the coffee table like an indictment as I waited. When Richard walked in and saw the papers, his usual composure cracked. "What is this, Emily?" he asked, his voice teetering between defiance and fear. "You know exactly what this is," I replied, my voice steady, ready to face the truth. Despite the turmoil churning inside, I kept my voice steady. "Look at these numbers, Dad. Look at what you've done." Richard picked up a statement, his eyes scanning the damning figures. Slowly, he set it down and sank into a chair, his posture deflated. "It was supposed to be temporary," he mumbled, his voice low, heavy with regret. "I thought I could make it right before you ever found out." "Temporary?" I scoffed, the bitterness in my voice cutting through the air. "You gambled with my future. How could you ever think that was okay?" For a fleeting moment, Richard's eyes met mine, and I saw a glimpse of the man who had raised me, the father I once admired. But that flicker quickly faded under the weight of his actions. "It was all for her, wasn't it?" "All for Clarissa," I pressed, needing to hear him say it. "Yes," he whispered, the admission hanging between us like a heavy fog. I stood up, the chair scraping loudly across the floor. "I trusted you, Dad, and you chose her happiness over your own daughter's future." Without another word, I walked out, the door closing behind me with a finality that echoed my resolve. That night, lying in a small room I now called home, the weight of my broken family ties pressed down on me. Cutting communication with Richard was painful but necessary. Each time my phone rang, I ignored it. Every unanswered message was a reminder that I needed space, a plan, something public and irreversible that would dismantle the facade Richard and Clarissa had built. As the dawn broke over another sleepless night, an idea began to form. A plan that would not only expose Richard's betrayal but humiliate Clarissa in the process. The perfect setting. The upcoming charity gala, where they always basked in the spotlight. It was only a week away, and everything was coming together more smoothly than I had dared to hope. My unlikely ally in this scheme was Sarah, once Clarissa's close friend but now a scorned exile who had felt the sting of betrayal just as deeply as I had. We spent countless nights huddled over my laptop in her cramped living room, piecing together evidence of the lavish expenditures that had drained my trust fund. Each transaction traced back to a specific piece of jewelry that Clarissa flaunted on social media. The paper trail was irrefutable. Bank statements, receipts, and photos of Clarissa draped in jewels at high society events. "Imagine her face when everyone knows the truth," Sarah said one evening, a mischievous spark in her eyes. "I don't want to imagine it," I replied, my resolve hardening. "I want to see it." The night of the gala arrived, my nerves buzzing with anticipation and determination. Dressed in a simple but elegant black dress, I entered the venue, my eyes scanning the crowd for Clarissa and the blogger I had contacted, Lisa, a sharp-eyed woman with a reputation for exposing the hidden scandals of the city's elite. As expected, Clarissa was dripping in diamonds, jewels bought with the feature that had been stolen from me. Seeing her stirred a mix of anger and resolve. I spotted Lisa across the room and approached her discreetly. "See the necklace and earrings?" I whispered, nodding toward Clarissa. "They're supposedly gifts from her loving husband. But there's more to that story." I handed Lisa a folder filled with the evidence Sarah and I had gathered. Lisa's eyes widened as she flipped through the documents. "This is gold," she murmured, already pulling out her phone, likely planning her next steps to break the story. As the night wore on, Sarah and I watched from the shadows as Lisa subtly pointed her camera at Clarissa, capturing the diamonds that now glittered with deceit. She mingled among the guests, weaving the real story into conversations. Rumors began to ripple through the crowd like wildfire. When Lisa finally posted the expose online, complete with photos and irrefutable evidence, the reaction was immediate. Guests whispered, their eyes darting between their phones and Clarissa. The room buzzed with the energy of scandal, the air thick with shock and schadenfreude. Richard's face turned pale as he read the breaking news on a guest's phone, his eyes locking with mine from across the room. In that moment, the carefully crafted facade of the doting husband shattered, leaving behind only the raw guilt of a man who had gambled and lost everything. Clarissa's reaction was even more dramatic. She clutched her necklace as if it could protect her from the judgment crashing down around her. But the jewels no longer sparkled with luxury. They glittered with lies and theft. As the evening came to a close, Richard and Clarissa hurriedly left the gala, avoiding the eyes of their former friends and allies. Sarah gave my shoulder a reassuring squeeze, a silent acknowledgement of our victory. That night, as I lay in bed, the adrenaline slowly ebbed, and for the first time in months, I felt a wave of true relief. The truth wasn't whispered in corners, it had been shouted from the rooftops. I hadn't exposed their deceit for revenge, but for justice, to reclaim my future and prove it was no one's to gamble with but my own. The aftermath of the gala was swift and unforgiving. By the time the sun rose the next morning, the story of Richard's misuse of my trust fund, spurred by Clarissa's greed, had spread across every local news outlet. Lisa's blog post, armed with the evidence Sarah and I had uncovered, went viral, shared by those hungry for both scandal and justice. Richard's once impeccable reputation crumbled under the weight of public scrutiny. Professional relationships that had taken him decades to build evaporated overnight, with colleagues and business partners distancing themselves, unwilling to be associated with his deceit. His once tight social circle unraveled as friends turned their backs, condemning his actions. But the consequences didn't end with social ostracism. The trust fund, meant to support not just my education but the future of other family members, had been compromised. Upon learning of the breach, my aunt and uncle, whose children were also beneficiaries, filed a lawsuit against Richard, seeking reparations for the misallocated funds. The ensuing legal battles drained whatever sympathy anyone might have had left for him. As for Clarissa, the backlash shattered her social standing. Humiliated and shunned by her peers, she found her position in the community untenable. With her image tarnished beyond repair, she left Richard, seeking refuge far away from the judgmental eyes of those they had once mingled with. Meanwhile, an unexpected silver lining emerged. The community, touched by my story and impressed by my resolve, rallied behind me. Local business owners and residents set up a community fund to help cover my tuition and living expenses. Their generosity was overwhelming, reminding me that for every act of deceit, there is often an act of kindness. Thanks to their support, I was able to return to my studies, free from the financial burden that had once weighed so heavily on me. I moved into a small apartment, modest, but mine, and reveled in the independence it offered. It was a fresh start, a space that symbolized my freedom from the shadows of betrayal that had once loomed so large. Through it all, I had learned the value of self-reliance and the importance of holding those we love accountable. The betrayal I experienced was deep and painful, but it taught me resilience and the power of standing up for what is right. With the support of my community and my own newfound strength, I embraced my studies with renewed passion. I was no longer just surviving, I was thriving. Every step I took was a testament to the power of truth and the enduring spirit of a woman determined to reclaim her future. And now my story was no longer about what had been lost. It was about everything I had gained.